There will always be people who are resistant to change, but the key is to show them what's possible and how it can actually move the needle for their business. That's where this is going to change some people's minds, right?
That's right. Yeah. And again, I'll go back to what I said in the beginning, just like the internet era, there was humans are generally moved based on two emotions, okay? Fear and greed. I hate to oversimplify, but it's really that simple, right? So we fear burning platforms. We don't like to be in places where we're at risk or where our business is being challenged or where we see, essentially customers moving away from us in droves. So there's a fear-based component to kind of driving change. And then there's also just tremendous upside. Usually there's gold rush kind of thinking around some of these things. And again, as a retailer, you have to balance that in your own mind. There are going to be challenges to your core business model where you need to adapt and apply these technologies. By the same token, innovative thinkers are really going to be able to look at their business and say, wow, we're not losing essentially opportunity. This is a chance to kind of put it on steroids. This is a chance to take something that we've always been really good at and kind of outpace our competition using AI, whether that's creating a different way to connect with customers and innovation, or in some cases, maybe just doing what you're already doing, which may be innovative, but doing it faster, better, cheaper than everybody else. So I think business cases, around employing AI or bringing AI into automate process, for example, or do better decision making within your business, are going to be driven based on either protection, we're fearful we're going to lose market share or whatever, or we see some pot of gold, right? We see some opportunity to maybe take a competitive advantage we have today and distance ourselves even further from the competition. And so that's the way I like to talk about it with people, Jenna, because it's not like AI is going to come in and just destroy existing business models. It has a great opportunity for retailers to actually magnify what you're really good at, but at the same time, it may magnify what you're bad at, right? So you need to make sure that you're on the front end of both aspects of that as you think about change.
Yeah, it definitely goes both ways.
Yeah.
So we've listened to this whole conversation, and now I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I believe you. I trust you. I think that this is where my business needs to go. The question then is, how do I even begin? So you told me prompting will be the next art that's really going to be important when you're trying to conquer AI, because it needs good inputs to be able to produce quality outputs. So you really have to provide it with a solid foundation. It's not going to do the work for you.
That's right. Yeah, and I should have mentioned this earlier. I mean, I think the one thing I hear all the time from marketing people is, oh my gosh, AI is going to replace me. It's going to take my job away. And creative directors and graphic designers, or they look at things like ChatGPT and DALL-E and Midjourney, and they go, oh my gosh, my craft is being co-opted into science, and there's no need for me. I actually, to be honest, I don't think that's true at all. I mean, I think, like I said, in terms of business models, I mean, if you're not a good creative director today, this is going to magnify that you're not a good creative director. If you're a great creative director, it should magnify your ability and expand your ability to be able to have impact, right? So again, great creative directors, everyone I've ever worked with, is very good at giving guidance and direction to art directors and producers, right? That, the better the brief, the better the outcome, the better the output. And so AI is no different. I mean, think about AI as like this amazing graphic designer or this amazing copywriter that you've got on your team. If you give them garbage, you get garbage back. I mean, so prompting, and this is, I think, probably one of the least recognized challenges in AI right now. As you begin with some of these tools, prompting is really the secret sauce in all of the processing that AI is doing today. So the better your prompt, the more descriptive, the more clarity and simplicity, quite frankly, that you have in your prompt, the better the output you get. So what does that sound like? Well, that sounds like if I'm a great creative director, the great creative directors write extremely tight briefs with very specific objectives, very specific desired outcomes. And as a result, that liberates a designer to create within a certain boundary, right? To create great product, great creative, great images, great videos. it's no different with AI. The only thing is that you can, instead of having a one-to-one relationship with a creative director and a graphic designer, let's say, or an art director, um, you've now got, literally millions of designers, if you will, at your fingertips. Meaning that if you really want to tap into, if you've got a stylistic view, like I want someone who really thinks like Matisse or Hopper or whatever, in terms of how they think about stylistically bringing this campaign to life, you've now got this massive team, if you will, of designers and creatives to essentially influence the output and influence the outcome. So, I mean, quite frankly, I think it's an exciting thing if you really are into the possibilities. It's really like opening up Pandora's box of opportunity for you. But like Pandora's box, if you're putting junk in, right, you're opening up a box of potentially things that are not necessarily going to help you be more productive. Along the same lines, Jenna, just to kind of take this in a slightly different direction, we're focusing on creatives and that, and the kind of the text and image and video world. This applies to all of us. I mean, if you're in management, if you're in operations, if you're in supply chain within the retail world, I think the easiest way to get started is to start playing around with ChatGPT. If you write, if that's part of your job, if you may not be producing, campaigns or output for creative, but you do probably write. You do emails, you do Word documents, you write memos. Play around with ChatGPT. I think it's amazing to see. I think the place where we're going to see the biggest impact in the short term is on personal productivity. There's a reason why Microsoft is embedding GPT technology into every one of their Office apps. Microsoft Copilot is basically, as it says, you're going to have an AI Copilot with you when you're in Word, when you're in PowerPoint, when you're in Excel. I mean, think about that. So it's at your disposal. And like, any other similar, if you're flying a plane, right, you're still the pilot, but you got a Copilot there that can help you make better decisions or help you see something that you're not, aware of, or improve your productivity by taking input, your prompt, and you can go in the back of the plane, play some cards, and let the Copilot fly the plane for a little while. I mean, it's literally that simple, and that's kind of the way I think you're going to see it show up for people. But you can't experience, if you don't experience it, it's going to be very hard for you to be able to recognize opportunity, right? Adobe, by the way, just announced they're doing the same thing with all of their suite of tools. It's called Firefly. But Adobe on the creative side is essentially creating copilots, right? Or kind of, I call it human in the loop on some of these tools to make sure that they're actually going to be pointed in the direction of, what the business needs, and helping you essentially use platforms that we're all very familiar with. Microsoft Office, Google Docs. I mean, all of these tools will ultimately have AI embedded in it, not to replace you, but to essentially help you be more productive in the ways that you're accustomed to using it, right? So again, how do you begin? I think if you're a creative, start exploring playing with these tools, figure out how for you it makes your life easier, right? Is a good place to start. If you're on the operations side, supply chain, start integrating this into or using it with your personal productivity tools that you already use, and see where you can go with it. I mean, again, I think it's like the internet. There's going to be a period of experimentation. There's going to be successes and failures. But the winners are the ones that are in the game. They're not the ones that are in the stands spectating. And that would be my key takeaway for retailers today is you can't afford to be in the stands. You got to be on the floor, either coaching, prompting, or playing. That's where the game is going to be won or lost.
Yeah, 100% agree. We really shouldn't look at AI as competition, right? Like it's not going to take your job. It's your co-pilot, just like you said, but we're often fearful of things we don't understand. So I like where you went here at the end with just try it. Just try it. We've all heard things about AI, but have you actually taken the time to experience it? At the end of the day, it appears that productivity gain will outweigh the downsides of this new technology. And I think you laid it out very nicely for us. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share your insights with us, Dave.
Happy to do it. And I'm looking forward to our session because like I said, we'll go through a lot of these things in more detail. I've got specific examples of technologies that I believe are going to be game changers for retailers, because, not again, I'm a big believer in tool for task, right? So not all of this stuff is going to be relevant. If your part of your job is looking at the shopper journey, there's a lot of things out there that are going to be tailored specifically for your industry. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that, quite frankly, is going to be noise. And so I think that's another part of the conversation, Jenna. We don't have time today to get into it, but be careful of the fact that there's a lot of shiny objects out there, right? And
Yeah.
one of the coaching items I always say to especially retail executives is let's focus on the tools that are relevant for our tasks. And let's not get, led astray on bright, shiny objects that may or may not have any relevance, to our business or our business model. And I think that's part of the challenge as well, as there's the pace of change right now, as we talked about earlier. There are so many bright, shiny objects, and you really need to kind of narrow it into and use as a framework for what are the things that are really going to be meaningful in the retail sector. Customer experience, again, being our North Star here, I think is going to be a way to kind of filter out what's noise versus what are things we really need to pay attention to.
I love that. And once again, we'll include a link to register for Dave's event at our Millersville headquarters in November. So please sign up. And Dave, thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenna. And thanks for putting this together. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.